Did you know there's a day to celebrate talking like Shakespeare? And it's this week. Don't worry, I'm not going to tell you this is the perfect time to write sonnets or explore iambic pentameter. I get it. Even mentioning Shakespeare can make some people a little twitchy. Now, before you hit pause, stay with me, because I know for a lot of us, Shakespeare brings up memories of high school English classes, struggling through old language, and trying to figure out what someone meant hundreds of years ago. Shakespeare can feel intimidating. The language is different, the themes seem complex, but that's just how school framed it. Unschoolers, on the other hand, we don't do it that way. We get to approach Shakespeare with creativity and curiosity and humor, especially on Talk Like Shakespeare Day this week, April 23rd. Instead of breaking it all down line by line, we bring it to life. We can talk like Shakespeare, watch the plays or the parodies of the plays, dive into dramatic reenactments, and explore the way his stories still shape the world today. If you get my strewing calendar, you already have some of the links for this, but I'm putting more up at the blog and over at Pinterest because I think it's fun to celebrate and expand our kids' worlds a little bit more. I'll put all the links to everything in the show notes, so you'll be able to find it there. And we are doing something different this season. The podcast is going to actually be me talking to you. Not a whole lot of fancy stuff in the background, just you and me talking. So if you'd prefer to see the podcast on video, come on over to YouTube. Okay, back to learning Shakespeare, because I know that a lot of people think, well, that's just playing with it. That's not really learning it. But yes, it actually is enough to play with it. Playing with Shakespeare can open up the world for the kids. It can open up the world for you too, which is kind of a little side benefit of unschooling. Things that were awful for us as kids, we can look at it in a new, different way and actually enjoy it. The kids are not missing out on anything because you're not making them slog through Macbeth line for line or memorizing the date that the Globe Theater burned or sweating over some pop quiz. You've already stepped off that schoolish path. This is just one more place where we can make room for joy and interest in real learning, because unschoolers, we don't just study Shakespeare. We meet him, we laugh with him, we question him, we remix with him, and then we move on when we're ready. And that is more than enough. So let's take a look at how unschoolers actually do learn Shakespeare without a textbook in sight. Let's think about language arts in the wild. When we leave school behind, we also leave behind that pressure to dissect every line of it. And thank goodness. But Shakespeare is actually a goldmine for language experiences. Kids hear new vocabulary and clever wordplay and vivid metaphors. They notice how tone and emotion can change a line completely. They might write their own Shakespeare-style insults just for fun. It's not about mastering Elizabethan English. It's about playing with language and noticing how it works. And that is language arts. And we may have only learned about Shakespeare in literature class, but so many other subjects weave in here too. Shakespeare opens up all kinds of conversations about history and culture. It doesn't have to be boring at all. What was life like in Elizabethan England? Why couldn't women perform on the stage back then? What did people wear? How did they talk? Who ruled the country? And what about the plague? Without ever touching a dry textbook, your kids can explore this time period through clips from the play over at YouTube, watching reenactments at local community theaters, or even just noticing the architecture in a movie adaptation. You're connecting the dots and it sticks. Also, they get introductions to psychology and sociology. Kids learn about emotional intelligence, and Shakespeare gives us opportunities to talk about big questions. His characters are messy and complicated, just like people today. Why did Macbeth lose control? What made Juliet trust Romeo so quickly? Was Hamlet actually indecisive or just deeply thoughtful? These are the kinds of questions that lead to deep conversations about human nature, morality, and choices. You don't need a curriculum guide to talk about loyalty or power or fear or love. Just ask a few questions like, what would you do? And then see where it goes. So obviously there's performance and fine arts because Shakespeare wasn't really meant to be read silently. It was meant to be performed. And you don't need a big stage to make that happen. A living room scene can be acted out with sock puppets. It totally counts. Or grab a plastic Halloween skull and demonstrate, alas, poor Yorick, I knew him, Horatio. You can find various renditions on YouTube and the kids can reenact the scenes. I've linked a few more at the blog, even cartoon versions. And it's art if they're designing costumes or they're making character masks. Performance, design, expression. This is where learning becomes real. And here's what I think is the fun part. Shakespeare is everywhere, even when we don't notice. Kids are often surprised to learn that we use his phrases all the time, like break the ice or in a pickle, green-eyed monster, or what's done is done. And modern movies? The Lion King is basically Hamlet. 10 Things I Hate About You. That's the Taming of the Shrew. Once kids start spotting Shakespeare in the wild, it'll feel like a treasure hunt. I have a collection of movies and resource links to help you dive a little deeper and have fun with it. Even a Shakespeare translator that you can write in, come on down, it's time for breakfast. See how Shakespeare would write that. You and the kids can put all kinds of things into the translator. So there's a link at the blog for that. But I also made an emoji quiz. I took 20 pretty common phrases that are used in real life that come from Shakespeare, and I did them as emojis so that you can pull it out on Talk Like Shakespeare Day this week. You can have an easy way to play with the kids of figuring out what that came from Shakespeare. It'll be fun. So here's your reminder. You don't have to make Shakespeare feel like school. You don't have to analyze and understand every word. You just have to make space for exploration and maybe some laughter and maybe some, whoa, I didn't know that. And when you do, you give your kids connection to one of the most influential storytellers of all time without any of the stress that came with it for us. So if you'd like a fun way to remind yourself about those phrases, don't forget about the emoji game. So let your kids play with Shakespeare. Let them laugh about it. Let them talk in fake old-timey voices around the kitchen table. Pull out that emoji game. It all counts. It all adds up. Happy unschooling. Enjoy the kids. And I hope you play with a little Shakespeare this week. Reach out if you need any unschooling support.